I'm Tony Taylor. Are you here for Leaders Lead the podcast? Let's go. Hey, how did you beat me? Look, let me tell you about this podcast. We got like 5 seconds. Leaders Lead the podcast is about leadership. Not just the leader without, but the leader within. All of these leaders that I'm talking to across the country, well, across the world now, they have one thing in common, and that's that they have overcome some insurmountable obstacles to get to where they're at today. Come on, let's go. Welcome to Leaders Lead the podcast. I am super excited. I'm even more excited than I normally am. Today, we have a legend in the game. We got Mr. Blaine Barlett. He's an author, co-host, Bloomberg TV co-host. He's the host of the Soul of Business podcast. He's also the international and also 2-time TEDx speaker. It might even be 3 at this point. I was telling Blaine before we started, when I went up before and I went on this journey as far as speaking, there was some speakers that I looked at. I looked at Les Brown. I looked at Eric Sutton. I looked at many others. I looked at Bob Proctor. I looked at Blaine Barlett. I love the way that he speaks. I love the way that, he uses science to back up the different things that he's talking about. He's just not one of those motivational speakers that's out there giving you the rah-rah. He's giving you the action steps to take to make a difference, to make a transformation, not just in your life as far as a person, but a transformation inside of an organization. And I would be amiss if I did not say that that's my goal as far as being a speaker, is getting to the point to where he is right now. He's a wealth of knowledge, and that's why we brought him on the show. So without further ado, welcome Mr. Blaine Barlett.
Hey, I bow. Tony, it's great to be here.
Oh man, it's good, man. I'm so grateful that you said yes. I know that you're a busy man. I see you all over the place. I've been seeing you all over the place for years. So I want to tell you thank you for you gracing for you being in my presence, brother.
Well, hey, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. It's nice to know that sometimes the effort pays off.
Yeah. So I was looking at your bio, and it says that you are the CEO of Avatar Resources. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is that Avatar Resources? It's a beautiful name, by the way.
Well, when I founded the company back in 1987. And it started out as a traditional consultancy. And we did primarily strategic plan implementation work. We didn't develop the strategic plans, but my focus very quickly became leadership. How do leaders actually make things happen in their organizations? So that's what the company was designed to do. And the word avatar, this is interesting. Because I was waved off on that word for a long time, when I was thinking about starting it up. They're going, no, I got an avatar. I mean, that's, what do you think? And this is back in the 80s. And this is, people are going, there's, religious connotations. There's all kinds of stuff. I'm going, no, you don't understand what the word means. The word avatar, literally Sanskrit word, literally means idea in physical form. And that's what a company is. It's an idea in physical form. Now, it was typically used to describe Buddha, to describe Jesus, to describe Muhammad. These were avatars of ideal states. And this is kind of why I was waved off. And so I was kind of like, no, I'm going to just kind of run with this. I think it really makes sense. So, companies have founding ideals. And how do they bring them to life and then keep them alive?
Wow. Wow. It definitely sounds like you were ahead of the game, because that's a buzzword right now. Everybody is like, what's your avatar? What's your avatar? I was going to say, you've done some pretty incredible things. Like, again, I was looking at your resume. Do you ever just stop and reflect about like how amazing your life is?
That's a great question. I guess honestly, I live inside it, so I don't see it. I mean, it just kind of has unfolded. I think the only time and that's not the only time, but the first time I actually stopped and reflected was when I was about 24 years old. I had, when I was 18, just coming out of high school, I put together a bucket list. Yeah, what do I want to do? What do I want to be? What do I want to have when I grow up? Yeah, and I had, I think, 10 items on that list, and I thought they were pretty big deal. Well, I looked up when I was 24. Now, this is only 6 years later, and every single one of them had been achieved. And I kind of looked at that, and I was actually kind of chagrined and humbled. It's kind of like, I think I need to start thinking bigger.
Wow.
and that really did start to spawn some stuff here. The way I think determines what I have in my life, and that was the first time I really got that at a visceral level.
Wow. Wow, you're a big mindset guy, right? You believe in the power of mindset. I was watching an interview that you were being interviewed by Bob Proctor, and I was just like, man, that's pretty cool. Two legends on one stage. How when I talk about mindset, I'll be honest. There's a lot of people, they say, man, I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear about that mindset stuff. We just do. And I always ask the question, you don't think before you do? And how important is it with mindset? Just so that I can get those naysayers so that they can hear us, they can hear the legend Blaine Barlett himself explain it.
I'll put it in scientific terms.
That's great.
This research, and this study has been replicated numerous times, but the one that I'm going to reference was published in 1999 in a neurophysical journal, a journal on neurobiology. And it basically pointed out that 95% of our behavior is directed by things that are out of our conscious awareness. 95% of everything that we do is directed ultimately by things that are outside of our awareness. And that's what's called mindset. That's what mindset is. And here's where the rub is. People will, this is a great time of year to talk about this. People will set New Year's resolutions. And, January 1st, I've got a New Year's resolution. By January 19th, and January 19th is called Failure Day. I mean, this is kind of interesting. It's called failure because that's the day about 85% of people will give up on their New Year's resolutions. They just got to blow them off. They've used 5% of their conscious cognitive ability to try to overcome a 95% iceberg that is going in a certain direction. And that's what we're working with the mindset. The idea of awareness, becoming aware of what's subterranean, becoming aware of actually what is running me. Most of this mindset, this 95%, has been set in stone for many people by the time they are about 14 or 15 years of age, and it never gets examined.
Wow.
Yeah, the unexamined life isn't worth living, I think. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, you've got to examine what's going on in here. And that's hard work. It's hard work. But if you can do it, well, this is what professional athletes do all the time. Pros. I mean, I've simplified this a little bit, Tony. I mean, say there's two fundamental mindsets. There's the mindset of an amateur and the mindset of a professional. And I don't mean this from a payment perspective. The mindset of an amateur is, I'll do just enough to get by. I'll do just enough so I don't look foolish. I'll do just enough so that I can coast. I'll do just enough so that I've got a modicum of success. I'll do just enough.
Right.
The mindset of a professional is predicated on having an idea that I can't not achieve. There's something out there that I want it so bad. I can taste it, feel it, smell it, and all that stuff. And I will do, and this is what pros do, I will do whatever it takes to discover what I need to do and how I need to be to have it.
Wow. Wow. So it sounds like sounds like the mindset is a great separator. So for the viewers and the listeners, I hope you got that. Like before you start with the plan, before you start with some sort of action, you got to make sure that you have the mindset to complete that plan of action. But I was going to ask you, what if, because I talk to people all the time, they say, you know what, Tony, I'm thinking about joining the Marine Corps. I'm thinking about joining the Navy. I want to be the president of this company. They have these lofty goals. And I ask them, you know, how do you plan to get there? And is your life, are you living your life according to, you know, what you see at the end? And they just look at me kind of like, what are you talking about? And to be completely honest, I don't do a good job in explaining where they need to start. So if I'm, you know, I'm asking you right now, like, how do I start developing the mindset needed to be successful?
I have to be, the first step is I have to be honest with myself. I really do. I have to be honest with myself. And honesty has, in this sense, there's, you know, in the work that I do with a lot of my clients, I'll bring a conversation in around something that's called ontological design. How do I design reality? You know, what is reality?
You're a smart dude, man. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, ontological design, I mean, the concept is actually really kind of elegant. It's really kind of cool. I design an environment that designs me in return. I design the environment so that it designs me in return. And you know, the easiest example I can think of is my office. You know, we remodeled the house a couple of years ago, and I was very specific about how I wanted my office to be designed, because I wanted to be inspired for my writing, and I wanted air. I wanted to be, and I've got a vista of the ocean out here. So I wanted to be able to be, I wanted the outside to come inside. Ooh. So, and all of that has to do with how I feel. So I designed the environment so it was designing me in return. I love being in this office. I absolutely love being, and we did that with a whole house. I mean, my wife, Cynthia Kersey, I mean, she was extraordinary in designing this home so that it designed us as a couple in the way that we wanted to live and wanted to be. So, so part of it is, you know, and this is where I'm kind of going with this. It sounds like I'm down a rabbit hole. I really
no. I'm tracking. Yeah.
But, yeah. For a lot of folks, you know, what I want is oftentimes, and it had better be actually, what I want had better be so far out there that I'm going to be traversing territory I've never been in before, and I will be doing it with people I've never been with before. It's going to require skills I've never had before in order to get, you know, these big dreams that I have in my life. So part of the honesty is, from an ontological design perspective, is my life right now designed in a way that will support that dream being alive? And oftentimes it's not. So the question then becomes, what do I need to hold on to that supports me? What do I need to let go of that is no longer supporting me? And that's the tough one. And then what do I need to learn new? And that one will evolve over time. But I have to be rigorously honest with that. What do I want to hold on to? What do I need to hold on to for this dream to materialize? Who and what do I need to let go of? Because when I was, I'm pretty good at maintaining relationships, but there are some relationships that I've let go of because they no longer supported. And it wasn't that person was a bad person. It's just where I was going. They weren't going to be going in that direction with me. And if they came along, it wouldn't work for either one of us. And I had to make some choices about that. And this is where compassion comes into play. I mean, you have to be compassionate about that. It's not just, I'm going to cut you off at the knees and you're out of here. It's, you kind of work it in a way that's generative and holistic, and you do it with love.
Wow. I love that. I love the idea of designing it around you. It's almost like, it's almost like, when you're doing your homework, right? You can't, if you're like my wife, right? She has to have it like really quiet. For me, I got to have some sort of noise. So I know that she and I in the same room trying to do homework or trying to do work together, one of us, we're not going to be successful. So I like that, designing your environment.
And it makes it easy for people to understand when you can position it this way. It's kind of like, I'm asking for this for the sake of, and that for the sake of what becomes really important. Like I exercise every morning. I'm up usually around 5:00, and first thing I'm doing is I'm exercising. I exercise, meditate, and people will ask me, why do you do that? To be in shape, to lose weight, to be Well, all of that comes with it. But what I want to be doing is I want to be teaching when I'm in my 90s. I want to be doing what I'm doing when I'm in my 90s. So my for the sake of what is so that I can do what brings absolute joy to me, which is teaching. I love to teach. I just light up when I get an opportunity to do this, to talk with people that are interested and interesting. It's kind of like, wow. And I want to be able to do this for a long time.
The question that I was going to ask you was, when you're designing the atmosphere to be conducive to the life that you want, and you're cutting people out, that sounds like a hard process. What do you tell the person that believes that they could still have those people in their lives and they're like struggling because they feel some sort of guilt in letting those people go?
Yeah. Boy, that's a great question. And that is what people run into. It really is. This is why I say it needs to be done with compassion. Yeah. And interestingly enough, compassion for myself first. And when I'm thinking about leaders lead from the inside out. I have to, first put your own mask on, sort of a concept. So I need to be compassionate with myself and understanding and appreciating that I do have relationships that I actually care about. And some of this uncoupling, so to speak, Gwyneth Paltrow talks about conscious uncoupling. But when you start to uncouple in this way, sometimes it'll take a year. Sometimes it'll take a little bit longer. It's not going to be, I'm done and out of here overnight. Because moving in the direction of your dream will take time. All of this just kind of unfolds. In the fullness of time, I think, is how it was described in The Stranger in a Strange Land by Heinlein years ago.
Oh, I love it. No, I think that's really good advice, because I know that's something that I struggled from in the beginning. I remember I was getting ready to go to the Marine Corps, and I had all of these friends around me, and they were obviously on another path, going another direction. I was going my direction, but I was supposed to lose weight, do certain things so I could reach the ASVAB. And I was noticing I would go and I would hang out with them, and I would get home late. So that means that I wasn't working out, waking up in the morning, working out. I wasn't studying. And I noticed that, and I don't even think I did it on purpose. I just started noticing there being a drift, me being more focused and doing that, but it wasn't an intentional break. I wish I would have had the wherewithal to intentionally break loose of that, because I feel like I would have been able to be greater much sooner.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I am at my age today, I've kind of settled into the fact that it takes as long as it takes. So, and I want to just kind of, I think, touch on that note. You've seen, the idea of, or you're familiar with the idea of a cocoon, caterpillar creating a cocoon, and then butterfly comes out of it. If you start to see a butterfly coming out of a cocoon and you want to go help it, and you start to peel the cocoon apart so the butterfly can get out, that butterfly is not going to thrive. That butterfly won't know how to fly. Well, it probably would genetically know how to fly, but its muscles, which would have been strengthened by coming out of the cocoon on its own, doesn't get to do that. So everything has a gestational period. If I plant a carrot seed in the ground because I love carrots, And then I look at my watch and go, well, where's that damn carrot? Yeah, it has a gestational period that it needs to actually fulfill in order to produce, the expected result. And a lot of that is oftentimes out of my control. It's out of my awareness even. But if I set set things in motion and start moving in that direction and keep steady movement on it, things will begin to unfold in a natural state. And this is part of, I've got a new book that I'm starting to put together called The Science of Sustainable Success. Science of Sustainable Success. And it'll be my 6th book. And I'm kind of using Wallace Wattles' The Science of Getting Rich as a template for this.
Okay.
Because it's, a lot of the same ideas, actually, getting rich and getting successful are kind of synonymous in a lot of people's minds. So that's kind of where we're headed with this. So there is a gestational period that needs to come into play.
Wow. That's really good information for me, because just like myself, and I know many of the listeners that reach out to me, we're all in the process of starting something new, or we've started something, we put something in motion, and I get impatient. That's my biggest thing. I'm just like, why aren't they here yet? You know? Why is this not happening? You have, and it brings me to kind of think about sort of some of the teachings that I know that you've created. You have this mindset as far as leadership and basically life paralleling nature.
Yeah.
Right. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I actually, my last TED Talk was titled "Nature is the Ultimate Business Guru," and it's part of the work I do in the area of compassionate capitalism. Which, when people first hear that together, compassion and capitalism, it's almost an oxymoron. They don't. It's kind of, how can that be?
I love it.
Capitalism can be, needs to be, and should be compassionate in the way that it's actually executed. And so capitalism, just as an economic model, when it came into being in 1776, when Adam Smith wrote the book, The Wealth of Nations, he basically used nature as a model for the economic model that he was envisioning. And in the book, The Wealth of Nations, he describes something that he calls the invisible hands of commerce. And the invisible hands essentially says that with trading partners, enlightened interest needs to be in play here. And enlightened interest means I'm going to be sure that you're winning, that you're in a position to thrive. Because as a trading partner, if you're not in a position to thrive, it's going to compromise my ability to thrive as well, because we are trading partners. There's a symbiosis. There's a reciprocity that's kind of going on. And he got that notion out of watching nature. I mean, you look at nature, and there is nothing in nature that isn't reciprocal in some way.
Wow.
Everything in nature serves as a center of distribution, not as a center of accumulation. And his notion of the invisible hands was that, trading partners need to serve as centers of distribution, knowing that it will come back. What I'm putting out will come back. I mean, this is in the scriptures. I mean, all of this sort of thing. So the idea of, using nature, it's wild, but it's also overlapping. It's interconnected. It's intertwined. Yeah, and I use the example of a jungle. I mean, you go into a jungle, it is pregnant with life. And I mean that very literally. Everything is alive, and everything is constantly dying to give birth to new life. So there's this cyclical thing that's going on. Today's capitalist model is based on accumulation, not on distribution. It's based on consumption. And it's not sustainable. And this is where we get the wealth disparities and everything else that we're finding. And today's leaders need to recognize that they have a moral responsibility to take care of the whole, because business touches everything on this planet. I mean, I could literally be an oyster in the middle of the South Pacific, and my shell is starting to disintegrate because there's too much carbon, too much CO2 in the water from from industrial pollutants. So, I mean, there's nothing on this planet that isn't touched by the activity of business. We've got microplastics on both poles in the ice.
Yeah,
they found a beer ring, in the Mariana Trench, 24,000 feet deep.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of beer it was.
I don't know.
That would be a heck of a commercial for them.
This bug's for you. But yeah, because business touches everything, business, I do believe, has a moral responsibility to take care not to do harm. And that's the leader's responsibility.
Yes.
That's the leader's responsibility, to make sure their businesses actually step up.
Wow. Have that thought process been led? Have you gotten any kind of resistance?
When I first introduced
because you say, capitalism, and basically it sounds like it should be dealt with in a practice that's kinder and gentler, and it's about distribution instead of accumulation. Because when I think about businesses, that's all I think about is like we're all trying to accumulate something, and that's sounds like that's where we're getting it wrong.
Yeah, I give away probably 90% of my IP. I mean, it's available for free on my website. It's just kind of, guys, if you want something, whether it's a video, whether it's a book or something, and there's ebooks that are free. I mean, I give it away because I know that it's going to be coming back in a form that's going to be useful for me in some way, shape, down the road. And it's this notion of just conscious. It is a mindset of I am a center of distribution. That's how I see myself. I see myself as a mindset, as a center of distribution. My knowledge isn't proprietary. Why would it be proprietary? It makes a difference in the way that life works. So I want to share it because it's going to come back to me. And if life is healthier as a consequence of me giving something away, hey, everybody benefits. Now, that seems naive. It seems utopiistic. But it's only naive and utopiistic when it's referenced against today's model in the way that it has been actually put together. Yeah, Milton Friedman talking about rational self-interest. Ayn Rand talking about rational self-interest. Milton Friedman, again, saying that the purpose of business is to make a profit. That's not the purpose of business. Honest to God, it's not. Now, and that's not to say that you don't need to make a profit. You do if you want to stay in business. But the purpose of business, from my perspective, is to enhance the experience of being alive on this planet. That's the purpose of any business, is to enhance the experience of being alive on this planet. And if my product or service makes you feel better, enhances your experience of living in a positive way, you're going to keep coming back. You're going to keep spending money with me.
Yes. Oh, I think you cracked the code, Blaine. I'm so honored to be talking about this subject with you today, because here recently, man, I've been so in tune with nature. I've never been one of those tree hugging folks, but I've been so in tune with nature, and I think it's been because my family and I. Since COVID picked up, we've been hiking quite a bit, going into different forests, different waterfalls and stuff like that. And I had this realization. I was thinking about before, when we would be hiking, I would see nurse trees and I would take a picture of every nurse tree. And I know I would get on my family's nerve because they're like, what is this dude doing? Keep taking pictures of these old rotten trees with these, baby trees.
Coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, it gives me chills just seeing it. And recently I was riding my bike And, where our houses are at, they're kind of like in the middle of the forest. It's, we're the human population is kind of taking over the trees and stuff. And I got super emotional while I was watching them literally take the trees out of the ground.
Yeah.
And all I can think about was them not having a chance or an opportunity to give because of us, because of humans. And I just started thinking about sustainability and just all of that. So I don't know. It seems like I'm in good company here, man.
Well, you mentioned something that I think is really important. When you take away the opportunity for something or somebody to give what is naturally theirs to give, there's a price to be paid for that.
Yeah.
There really is. There's a spiritual price that gets paid, and that's not recoverable in many ways. So how do we live our lives? Really is important. Years ago, I came up with this idea, with an old partner of mine that we were doing some work. Because most of the companies I worked with back then were Fortune 50s, and the idea was, and a lot of the executives and leaders we worked with, we asked this question: is your life?
No, I was just going to say, I brag about working with Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 companies. But go.
It's just a number. Just add a zero or take a zero away. But the question is your wallet fuller than your life? And if your wallet is fuller than your life, you have made a mistake somewhere along the line.
Wow. That is really good. That brings me to my next question. I know we're going to wrap up soon, but leadership. What does that mean to you? Is leadership the same as management? Is it kind of like
very different animals? Very different animals. Management is what happens when leadership is done.
Okay. Yeah.
Leadership is the activity of moving possibility, and I'm going to be just kind of metaphoric here. It moves possibility into the realm of probability. It gets handed off to management. Management takes probability and turns it into reality. That's kind of the demarcation. So there's that middle ground between, where's the handoff between, what is probability and possibility, and where's the gradient? But leaders identify possibility. Leaders are always, when you think of what a leader does, just very simply, leader causes movement. That's all any leader does. They cause movement. They cause change. Now they can do that in all kinds of different ways. George Patton, or Mahatma Gandhi, or Martin Luther King, or Mother Teresa. I mean, these are all leaders. Nelson Mandela, Hitler. These are all, they cause movement.
Right.
And there's no judgment about the quality of the movement in that definition. Now, what's really important to understand about that definition of a leader is that by definition, everybody is a leader because everybody is always causing movement in their environments. Always. When you show up someplace, that system, the people in it, the things that are in it, has to adjust to accommodate your presence.
Yes.
You're causing movement. So everybody's a leader. Now, not everybody's effective in that role. And that's where leadership comes in. And leadership, in the way that I define it, is the activity of co-creating coordinated movement that causes the actions necessary to get the results I want. There's two pieces to that. Co-creation. It takes command and control out of the equation. I got to do this with other people. I want to get buy-in. Co-creation implies shared ownership. And it moves it away from a have to a want to in people's minds.
Wow.
And the other piece is coordinated movement, which is how do we do this dance together without, knowing that we're going to step on each other's toes periodically. So how do we agree to accommodate that? But that coordination. So there's the dancing piece. I can get the dancing piece with compliance. I don't have to have co-creation with it. I can just, I could just say, go dance, and you'll eventually get coordinated around that, but you won't own it. Anytime, from a linguistic language perspective, people feel as if they have to do something, co-creation hasn't occurred. And when co-creation is missing in the equation, you have problems in the organization. They're waiting to be told what to do.
Yeah. Wow. You put that so beautifully. And I think it's a good segue into, I was going to ask you about mentorship. I've been looking at, again, your background. It sounds like I'm assuming you've been mentored by the greats, but I know that you're right now mentoring some of the greats right now. How important is mentorship to you? And can you speak on some of the people that you're mentoring right now or you've been mentored by?
It's interesting you asked that question. I was, just before I came on live with you, David Meltzer and I were doing a show together.
Oh, wow.
And,
I saw it.
And David says that I'm one of his mentors, and I have mentored David for a number of years. So I would not be where I am in my life without mentors. I'm absolutely clear about that. And that was one of the things that I kind of realized back when I was 24 with that bucket list. And because those 10 items I did, with very little humility. I told myself I did it by myself. I didn't do it by myself, but that's kind of what it felt like. What I was dreaming of, though, was stuff that I didn't have a bloody clue in hell how I was going to make it happen. I didn't have a template. I didn't know anybody that had ever done it. So I real quickly realized on this journey, I'm not going to get there by myself. I need to find people that have walked this path, that are familiar with some of the things that I might want to, either watch out for or look for. So, one of my very first mentors was a woman by the name of Kara Barker. And Kara's a Jungian analyst. She was my first boss. Not my first boss. She was my first female boss, I should say. And I just absolutely thrived under her. I was fired by the CEO in that company 2 times, and she never told me about it. And I just kept showing up to work. And I ended up running a division. Yeah. Well, I ended up running a division of the company. But he why is he still here?
Wow. So she stood in front of that and was like, no, you're not letting Blaine go. Blaine is something special. Yeah.
She flew air cover for me in a very specific way. And then, later on, there's other people that have come and gone. Richard Strozzi at one point in time, who developed, basically was seminal in the development of somatic coaching, the field of somatics. But then, Bob Proctor has been a mentor of mine for years. Mary Morrissey. And I cite those 2 specifically because it's a male and a female. There's a yin and a yang. And they can look at the same thing and have completely different points of view about how to, to cross this chasm. And it's been very useful for me to be able to leverage that and to pay attention to that. My wife, Cynthia, is actually a mentor for me in when it comes to learning how to be more generous.
Wow.
I mean, she mentors me in giving. So I'm very fortunate in that regard.
So, that's amazing. Yeah. That's funny you say that, because my wife does quite a bit of mentoring for me too. And I couldn't quite figure out the word for it until you describe it, but it is mentorship. It is mentorship, being that person to say, hey, you need to stop doing so much of this, or doing so little of this or that. That's so beautiful. It sounds like you all are an amazing team. Please tell your wife, thank you for letting me borrow you for the evening. I really appreciate it. as far as the mentorship piece, I don't know if you've noticed this, but one thing that I'm noticing quite a bit is the word mentorship gets thrown around quite a bit now, and it's almost like a hustle. Was it like that? Like when you first got into the speaking and coaching game?
No. Yeah, things get into the mainstream language, and it starts to lose its meaning after a while. I started coaching in 1970, roughly about 1976, which kind of dates me a little bit. It's the reason my hair is the color that it is. But we didn't call it that. We didn't have a name for it, and I really didn't know what I was doing in terms of the label until I think about 1991 or so, when I stumbled along a fellow by the name of Hudson.
Okay.
At the Hudson Institute. And it was just kind of, there's a name for what I do. Isn't that fascinating? And then coaching, everybody's a coach. Everybody's a coach.
Yeah.
But not everybody's really skilled at it, unfortunately.
Right. I'm glad that you said that. Thank you. It's been such an honor. I know that our viewers and our listeners, they're probably like, man, how do I get a hold of Blaine and Blaine's materials, Blaine's book, maybe mentorship from Blaine or coaching from Blaine or hiring you as a consultant? What can we reach you?
BlaineBartlett.com is probably the easiest. And that'll take you all kinds of different places. So it's not the most user-friendly website I'm finding. We're in the midst of redesigning it, but anybody that's listening, poke around in it. there will be little Easter eggs in there that you might be surprised by.
Sounds like you're giving away a bunch of nuggets. I love it. Blaine, from the bottom of my heart, again, I can't say it enough. This has been such an honor. And I really appreciate you. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Tony, absolutely my pleasure. Anytime. I've loved the conversation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Oh, man, I know that you all got some value from this. Do me a favor. Go and make sure that you subscribe to Leaders Lead the Podcast. Leave us a review. Let us know what you thought about the show, and be sure to catch the next episode next Monday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, that's it. All right, y'all. That was great. If you enjoyed this podcast, well, I'm sure you enjoyed it. If you're still here with us, what I want you to do is head over to your favorite podcast and streaming network and give us a download, subscribe to the channel, and also let us know what you think about the show. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you for the things that you've done. Thank you for the things that you're doing. And especially thank you for the things that you're going to do, because I know that you're going to do something amazing.